All right, it's 5:30, and this is the Committee of the Whole meeting of the City of Merrill. It is Wednesday, August 14th, 2024. It is 5:30, and we are in City Hall Council Chambers. Next item on the agenda is the roll call. Clerk?
Mr. Michael Kaler?
Here.
Mr. Meyer?
Here.
Ms. Furmanek?
Here.
And my old one. Mr. Lass?
Here.
Mr. Rick?
Here.
Mr. Wakes?
Here.
Ms. Rutkowski?
Here.
And Mayor Huss.
Here. Alderman Andrew Kaler is excused. Next, we have public comment. Any public comment? Last call for public comment. Hearing none, we have general agenda items for consideration. We have discussion regarding the reevaluation of the City of Merrill. Kit Koski from Bomar Appraisal. Kit, you want to start off with the bad news?
Well, I don't know if it's bad news, but we're doing a revaluation this year throughout the whole city. The reason why we're doing a revaluation is because we fell out of compliance with the state. So the guidelines for the state is a major class is 10% or more of the value of your whole township. So if you fall outside of 10% of that value, the commercial or residential, you have two major classes in Merrill. 4 years in a row, you get a nasty gram from the Department of Revenue that you need to do a revaluation. If we were not to do one this year, we would get a second notice, and then it would be a state-reviewed revaluation. So the state would require you to do a revaluation, and then the Department of Revenue would kind of, I guess, follow what you're doing and make sure you would be paying an assessor and the state to review your assessment. So that's the reason why we're doing a revaluation. The last revaluation that we did was back in 2016. It was a down market in 2016. Things really, they've rebounded kind of the late teen years, and since COVID, everybody knows what's happened to the residential real estate. There's going to be quite a tax shift in the city of Merrill, mostly because commercial properties haven't increased as fast as residential properties. So in last year, our assessed value, the residential properties were 59% of the total assessed value of the city of Merrill. This year, we're probably looking at about 70% is residential. So the commercials were 32%. They're probably going to be in the 24% range of assessed value. Manufacturing staying about the same, 6% and 6%. And then personal property last year was 3% of your total taxes. That's now 0 because the state eliminated personal property tax. And did you find anything on? No, okay. I believe the city is going to receive some sort of stipend for the personal property from the state. They did it with exempt computers. They did it with machinery on the personal property end. What that's going to be, I think it was like a 5-year sliding scale where you got like 90% the first year, 70% the second year. So you are going to receive, I believe you're going to receive funds for that personal property that you used to be able to collect. So, but in looking at that, those numbers that I just gave you, you know, you go from 59% to 70% of the total taxes. That'd be an 18.5% increase in residential. Now, these are preliminary numbers. I'm not done. The commercial side of things I feel pretty good about, but on the residential side, I still got some work to do. The residential would go up, this is on average, 18.5%. The commercial properties on average would go down 25%. That would be their taxes. That being said, there's a couple other factors. One's going to be the 3% personal property that I don't know if that money will just go into your general fund or what it will go into, but, so that will take care of some of that 18.5% on the residential side. The other thing would be our equalized value in the city of Merrill went up 1% this year. Last year, I think it was 19%, somewhere in there. And the county as a whole went up 8%. So we're gonna, the city of Merrill is going to, the taxpayers are gonna be paying in less to the county than what they did last year. And they're gonna be paying less into the school districts than what they were last year. Comparative to, I guess, I don't know the whole breakdown of who all pays into the city of Merrill school districts, but the surrounding towns I know do. Scott and Town of Merrill, and I don't know who else, but, so there'll be some relief there. But if I had to estimate right now, I think your tax rate last year was around $32.50 a thousand, and I would say that's probably gonna drop down into the $20 per thousand range. Might be less. So, kind of overall, the way to look at it, the way the preliminary numbers are, usually I don't do any of this, but the preliminary numbers right now, I would say the average increase in Merrill is gonna be 62% the assessment. Residential side would be about 91%, and the commercial would be going up 22%. So if your house, which most of them went up more than 62%, goes up more than that 62%, you're gonna be paying a little bit more in taxes. So,
The people that are probably going to feel it the most is somebody like myself that's lived in my house for 30 years. We've built a garage, but that's about it. So, I mean,
yeah,
we're gonna, we bought it low and at that time, and
there's different, sectors in each major class. Like commercial, the apartments are gonna increase more than that, on average, more than that 22% or what have you. Duplexes back in 2016 were not very attractive. Now they kind of are. People need a place to live with the housing market and things like that. There's like some of the older homes that in 2016 you might be able to pick one up for $60,000. They're now selling for 120, 130. Those are the people that like I said, if you go up that 91% average or whatever, on paper right now you're at 18.5% increase in your taxes. But there's some relief with the 3% personal property and some relief what you're paying into the school district of Merrill and Lincoln County. So I did not dive into all the different entities and what it's going to be. I don't know what that's going to be, what that effect is going to be. But if I was to estimate your mill rate, I would say somewhere in that $19 to $20 range per thousand. So,
but the values are gonna go up.
the values are going to go up. These are preliminary numbers, but your estimated residential assessment is going to go up about 91%. But then your tax rate's going to go down, But on paper, that class goes from 59% to 70% of the tax base.
And this is nothing that's unique just to Merrill. This is happening all over.
Not unique to Merrill. In the municipalities I do, you had the most percentage-wise commercial properties versus residential properties. So, you were prior to, you were almost 1/3, 2/3. 1/3 being commercial properties, 2/3 being residential. So when the commercial properties are not doing as well as the residential properties are going to feel it. I've done other municipalities where waterfront might go up twice as much percentage-wise than off-water properties, So then they pay more taxes. So it happens during a revaluation. Do I think it's quite a bit? Yeah, I do, but it's the numbers that we have, it's the market that we have, and there's, plenty of sales to show it, so, it's gonna be a long open book and board review process, so, but I've been through it before, you just explain it to everybody, and
Till the market tanks and then
yeah. Well, and we saw, I went through the cycle of, the 07, 08 revals that we did, 05, 06. And then 5 years later, we're doing another revaluation where you lower the values. And, thing is, you lower the values, the mill rate goes up. So, I mean, everything's based on your levy that you have. So, I don't know what is the total levy for City of Merrill? Okay, yeah. So it's all based on that. And I know municipalities are hurting for money right now.
we can borrow.
It's all TID money.
Our
From the
town,
governor,
our
maybe.
town just had a referendum that passed yesterday. So they asked for $750,000. I think our levy's $4.5 million, something like that, and that's to continue services. There's no $2 million building or $5 million building, anything like that. It's a lot of it's roads. The cost of roads goes from $100,000 a mile to $300,000 a mile.
Just wait for Pinecrest.
So.
Can
with
a
that
home be reassessed higher than what it just sold for?
What's up?
If a local home just sold for, say, $150,000 yesterday,
Yep.
can you assess that at over $200,000 or $300,000 just because?
Well, yes and no. I mean, if it's an arm's length transaction, it was on the market, there's a realtor, anybody could buy it, then I better be within 10% of that sale.
Okay, so anybody that doesn't agree with an assessment, they could come in and say, here,
Absolutely.
I just bought this house 9
Yep.
months ago, and this is what it's
Yeah,
sold for.
and there's things like that happen. I mean, I'm far from perfect, so, but that's what the open book process is. So, come September, I don't know, I think I gotta have them in the mail by September 14th, the notices. So, those will go out in the mail. The following week, I'll be on the phone for a week straight, talking to people, and all day long. And there's people that will bring in information that I look at or oversaw or didn't know, that, hey, we had a flooded basement, we no longer have basement finish, here's the pictures, you can come out and look at it, what have you, So, during, over the maintenance years that we've had over the last 8 years, we gotta do a sales review on every property. So, when a property sells, per the state, I have to review every sale. So a lot of them have listings through a realtor. In those times is when I pick up basement finish, things like that. So, or remodeling or what have you. I don't change the assessment just because of a sale. But if there's a sale and I do a review and I see the kitchen's been remodeled or the bathroom's been remodeled or they added basement finish, things like that. Or they tore down the garage or what have you, the other way too. So, but yeah, I better be within, and when people come into the open book process, they can come in with either an appraisal from an appraiser. I'll look at it, see what they use for comps, things like that, or a realtor's market analysis that they can do on their house. Realtors sometimes like to do that just so they have a prospective home seller, so, and I can look at their comparables too. It doesn't mean we always
Good.
agree, but yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Might I suggest that we immediately start writing up stuff for social media and the other media instead of doing the September surprise or tax bill surprise, because that's what I gathered occurred in the town of Merrill. They all got this huge tax increase, and it wasn't explained to them why, that we are required by law to do this. If we don't do this, this is the consequence would happen. We
Right.
just didn't say, hey, let's go raise some more money. because we want to add things on, but we are required to do this and explain where we're coming from, exactly as you explained tonight. And because we're not the bad guys here, we're forced to do this kind of stuff,
Yeah.
and I think it needs to be explained. When you saw that huge increase in the town of Merrill, I didn't see a bunch of homes go up for sale. They're paying it, but I think if you lighten the blow a lot earlier and let people know what's gonna come ahead come tax season,
Yeah.
tax bill time, they'd be a little more better planning for it than that.
Go ahead.
I mean, in looking at our house, we bought it in 2013, and in 11 years, if you go to Zillow or Redfin, it's increased by $100,000 in its value. And it's like, no, I mean, we scraped. We couldn't get the $112,000 sale price. No assessor would go over 108. And now it's like, wow, look at this. We're double in price. So I think all these factors have to be brought to the attention that we realize that, again, the city's just not looking to screw you. This is the market. We're all victims of it.
I'll have a letter, there'll be an insert with all of my notices of assessment that explains some of that. You know, I think one thing to get across to the citizens of Merrill would be your levy is X. Your levy can only increase by the net new construction, which, I don't know if you've looked at it, is it $50,000 or 75? What can you physically raise your levy this year? You know, you're gonna be going from 6.5 million to 6.5 million plus 50,000, something like that. So you're not collecting more taxes, it's who you're collecting the taxes from, is basically what a revaluation is. It's equity, you're paying your fair share, it doesn't feel good as a homeowner, but, you know, and if I was the municipality, I wouldn't say exact numbers, because these are preliminary numbers, and I don't know what effect that 3% personal property is gonna have. I don't know what effect us only going up 1%, where the whole county is going up 8%, so what we're paying in is less. It's gonna help us, but it's gonna help that 18.5% become less and less and less, you know, that's on average. But, you know, and you're gonna have some newer homes that, you know, their assessment with the ratio in it might not increase that much, you know, so, there's a blend of properties. So, you know, I agree, it's good to say something, but I think you gotta be careful with, I've done this for 25 years, and you can get yourself in trouble, is all I'm saying.
Oh, we always do that.
Kit, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
How does the number of new homes that have been constructed in Merrill since the last assessment impact this?
Well, it's kind of a per year thing. That's where your net new construction comes in. You know, this year we had preliminary, but about $4.8 million in new home construction. That would include garages and things like that. When I first started working up here in 2014 or 2015, we were lucky if we had 1 or 2 houses built a year. So things have improved in that regard. And then we had about 4.3 million in commercial property. So it's about $8 million in new construction. So that, with municipalities, I guess, hurting for money per se, most municipalities are using their net new construction to raise their levy, to cover costs for roads, services, things like that. So that could be offset to, you know, alleviate a little bit of the tax burden, but just about every municipality is using that for their services and things like that.
So had we not built those additional $8 million or whatever it is this last year, would this increase have been more or less?
I don't think that would have had much effect on it at all. All that is, that's helping raise your levy to maintain services, in my
Okay.
opinion. But I guess the city can talk about that. You know, in my opinion, things are looking in the right direction as far as new construction in the city of Merrill. There was, you know, I don't want to say it this way, but it was not much, next to none for new construction. I can look at the numbers, but.
If we wouldn't be building tax base, there would be more of a burden on the existing taxpayers.
Yep.
I mean, that's kind of simplistic, but if you think of it that way, take $8 million at the $32 per thousand and do the math, I mean, that would be gone, that would require it to be paid by everybody else. So we need to grow or we're going to be putting more burden on the existing taxpayers. As far as revenue, that doesn't mean we need to grow the expenses. I mean, we all kind of can do that math. But with that being said, you look at price of materials, like Kit was saying, with roads and labor, a simple 2.5% increase in wages, you know, over our employees is substantial. It's probably over $200,000 a year in pay increases. So how does $50,000 keep up with that? It doesn't.
That's, the state, in my opinion, is wrong with the way that they have levy limits for municipalities. I think they started it in the early 2000s. And I'm guessing there was some people with fat budgets or, you know, abusing it. I don't remember exactly what was happening in the early 2000s, but that's when they started doing this zero levy limit. I think you used to be able to go 2%, your levy every year, up to 2%, and then they put that zero levy limit plus net new construction. So have you looked, do you know what you're able to do with that $8 million? Does that come out to 2% or is that less than 2%?
It all depends where the growth is. If it's in a TID, then
Right.
it hurts.
Yeah.
Not hurts, we don't see it for 20 years.
Right.
Or whatever the length of the TID remaining
Right.
is.
But with the way that the reason I say that I think it's wrong is because I don't know that they had inflationary times like we have right now. And municipalities can't keep up with what you're saying. That's wages. Now look at roads. Now look at
Yeah,
postage.
we're not immune to
Right.
electric raises and fuel cost raises and everything else. We're not immune to that. Some people think that, well, just because we're a municipality, we don't have to pay for our fuel, which obviously isn't the case.
We just went through this in our town with that referendum, and I honestly think you're going to start seeing referendums pop up everywhere. I really do with this zero levy limit, and it's sad. I mean, the only answer for municipalities right now is to go into debt, and it's like a softer form of credit card debt. You just keep borrowing money, and
Or you cut services and personnel.
Yep.
I mean, that's all we have left.
Annex.
I guess the only other thing I would add on my end, I guess it really doesn't matter, but looking at your tax bill from last year, I think 52% of it goes to the city, 20% to the county, 23% to Merrill School District, and 5% to North Central Technical College. So with that, the city equalized value going up 1%, and the county as a whole going up 8%. You could just say about 50% of your tax bill, you'll see the city of Merrill should be paying less into the county, the school, and the technical college than what they did last year. The way I'm looking at it. So what that equates to that $19, $20 per thousand, how much is that gonna take off of that? I haven't calculated that out. And if somebody wants to dive into it, and put their name on it, I'll allow them, so.
But we're going to have the residents not complaining, rightfully so, that their taxes are going to go up, and the businesses will be silent that their taxes are going down on the commercial side. So we got to kind of look at
Gotta be careful.
both sides here.
There's two ways to look at that as well. It's hard to say it this way, but the commercial properties have been paying too much. Their portion of the taxes, they've been paying more than their fair share for the last couple of years. And the residential has been getting a break. It's hard to kind of, but that's, in reality, if you would have done a revaluation every year, that's what it would have been, so.
Any further questions? And I guess Alderman Mike Kaler, the reason that's the reason we brought him in today, was to kind of give us a heads up beforehand, so we weren't blindsided, and
No.
you know what I mean?
Oh, well, how many years have you looked at the October surprise at
Right.
budget time? And as I said, I really would think we need to soften the blow to the homeowners and say, we were forced to do this and this is what's gonna happen.
Right.
There's no numbers here, they're not done. We have a
Right.
way to appeal it, but just so you know, it's coming down the pipe.
Right.
I do agree with Alderman Kaler, and a case in point, in order to kind of back up what we're kind of talking about, is the school district knew about their increase back in September last year, because I was at that meeting when they announced that that was going to happen, but then after that, you heard crickets and nothing. There was no, you know, and then all of a sudden in January, everyone gets their bill and it's a large increase. Let's not, you know, everyone got hit by it. So if we can sit there and say, look, it is going to be an increase, we don't know the exact numbers yet, but, you
Right.
know,
There's gonna be,
But-
there's gonna be a shift.
but wait for, you know, your bill or your letter or whatever in September, and here's when you can appeal it and stuff.
Leave us your cell phone, we'll put that right on.
Well, my cell phone goes on all the notices, so, it is what it is. But that's a question I was gonna ask, because, last winter, I ended up with a lot of phone calls on that, and I had to find out that, I think it was a per pupil charge or something, right?
Again, yeah.
And does anybody know how that works?
If I remember correctly from last year, and I believe that I know it was due to partly failed referendums, if I'm not
I think so, too.
mistaken.
That's
Correct.
what it was, and then it was
Referendums, you
Two.
could then go do
$1,000.
Yeah, and it was part of a Governor Evers bill, if I remember correctly, so.
I thought it was like a per pupil went from $10,000
Up to
$11,000 or
Yeah,
something.
So,
Yeah.
and I mean, it did help the school district, don't get me wrong.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm grateful for those students, but it definitely, the taxpayers definitely got hit hard.
And with no insult to our local media, but we really don't have much for local media. And so as Nathan pointed out, it's disclosed in a public meeting, this is going on, but nobody reports it, because we don't have Dewey Pfister, you don't know, sitting here every night and writing articles about this. And the public is not informed, and that's why we have to be proactive in letting them know what's going on.
I had, I think it was, I don't know, was it the Wausau Review or some newspaper?
Wausau Pilot, yeah.
Okay. Contact me in January, February, March, something like that. I think they went through a similar situation in Wausau, and they wanted my numbers, and I said I will not be done with my numbers until September. So, if they call me back, they call me back. But, you know, it's simple to kind of say that residentials have increased 90%, commercials on average 20%, you know, I mean, but it's, you know, it's hard for everybody to understand it, I guess.
Until you see it on
The-
your own bill.
Well, you had a house that was worth 100,000, now it's worth 190,000. That's nice, but you're gonna see an increase in your taxes, you know.
And I think that, like Alderman Mike Kaler said there too, we need to say that we were forced to do this. This isn't we didn't just willy-nilly do this, so.
This is state mandated.
I think that, along with showing your levy is going from X to X, or approximately X, whatever, 6.5 million to 6.6 million, or whatever.
Right.
I think will help alleviate in, you know, it's who it's coming from. And the residential sector is, and I think, I did 2 revaluations last year. Nokomis up the road, I think they went up 90% on average, and I was busy, but I thought it was going to be worse. I really did. And I think people are understanding. I mean, most people know the market has skyrocketed, so that doesn't mean they're not going to argue, but there is an understanding that it's probably the hottest real estate market we've seen, so.
On the commercial side, it's going down, though. I mean,
Well, on average, they're going.
square footage prices and,
Not Not really. On average, they're going up 20%, the commercial properties. But the average increase is 62%, so throughout the city. So they'll see a 25% tax decrease,
Yep.
on average. So that's why you gotta be careful with saying these percentages. You get yourself in trouble because not all sectors of each class is going up or down the same amount, so. It's a process. I mean, it's a lot.
And it's not just taxes. Insurance premiums are gonna skyrocket also, so.
They already have.
Oh, I know. I just got some of my premiums doubled, one tripled. Yeah.
And that's because the value of them to replace them is higher.
Well, this was a business, but
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, if anybody has any personal questions, just give a call and I can try to explain it the best I can, so.
Anything further for Kit?
To your point, Alderman Kaler, we will put something together as far as the expected shift, and we'll discuss it and bring it, maybe send it out to everybody and just let you guys review it before we go any further with it. We'll kind of keep that, probably coincide with when you send out your notices, somewhere in there, at least have it ready. Get it out just before that.
I'll show you what I put together too then, in the notices, and if there's something that
Thank you.
needs to be added or what have you. I'm sending out, whatever it is, 4,000 notices, so might as well add something in there.
Okay, thank you.
So.
Okay. Hearing nothing further, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I so move.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to adjourn. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.